Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner, and I am joined by a very special guest today. This is Dave Bloomquist. You might know him in the Discord as Hawk Van Dyke. You also might know him as the star of Starstruck by London, an amazing YouTube channel that he has out there exploring all there is to explore about London. But Dave, we're not here to talk about London today, unless it's a player named London. We are doing our annual tradition, and you are quite good at this game, I must say. What are we talking to the Flockers about today, Dave?
We're talking about fantasy football, and we're hitting it from the angle. We usually just go straight into the Seahawks, but we're going to talk about fantasy football in general today.
Yeah, we are. So let's dive right in. We had our pleasantries before we hopped on. Dave's doing great. I'm doing great. We're all busy and we're having some fun. But I love this. The other day, I sent this to you in our Discord from the fantasy ang, I guess you would say. And it says, how it feels when your wife asks how your fake football research is going. And of course, it's a remarkably fun pull from the Wedding Crashers. And and I think his name is Todd. Is that right? He said, is the character name Todd? Do you recall? Yeah, right. It was a gift, and I'm keeping it, right? So it's a wonderful reference. And of course, if you're here, we would love you to subscribe to the Seahawkers podcast. This is our annual we do every single year with Dave. He really brings a lot of value and perspective to looking at this through the lens of fantasy. And I think it's a worthy perspective too, because as Seahawks fans, even if you're just here for Seahawks content, well, we're going to play a bunch of these players. And also fantasy football and then to the gambling realm has really permeated all parts of football. And it's just an extension of, I don't know, for me, Dave, and you, I know, having fun, having community, having people to BS with and trash talk with. And of course, our own form of competition as we are no longer, let's say, in our athletic prime, Dave.
I don't think I ever was.
All right, a couple of quick things before we get going too. If you missed it, we had a great interview with Earl Thomas just yesterday, depending on when this goes live. But we recorded it, or we were live with Earl just yesterday. Great time. There was some really cool questions on there. As an example, we asked Earl about coaching things that stuck with him from the Pete Carroll time, or that was all his time, or his favorite moment at the Super Bowl parade. And also, Earl was talking about, we met him last time at a draft party out in Seattle or Puget Sound, and he was predicting that Seattle would pick Jalen Milroe, and we did the very next day. So we hit all that up. So please take a time to go check that out. And then Dave, we like to parlay polls we're putting out on YouTube that are going along with episodes, almost as if they're on purpose. So we asked the Flockers out there and we said, is Earl Thomas a Hall of Fame safety? 85% said, of course. And I think 15% are smoking crack. And they said, I don't think so. But I'd love to understand, your opinion. You watched the show, you said, what do you think? In your opinion, is Earl Thomas a Hall of Famer?
Well, Earl gave us a lot of good evidence on his own behalf. He had stated that he was the best safety ever, but he has the film to prove it. And I think it would be crazy if that man did not make the Hall of Fame.
And I think he will. And the thing is with the 15%, because when we put a poll out to YouTube, I could assume it's mainly Seahawks fans who are answering it, right? That's the assumption. Maybe not all, because I can't tell, but it's got to be 95%, if not more, Seahawks fans. With that, the comments I was seeing from people that were like, they were more vocal, by the way. People who voted yes were less vocal. There was a few. Most comments were explaining why they said no. And a lot of it is it fizzled towards the end of his career, or the way things ended sours it and he won't get the votes. That's all. That's fine. People could have their opinions. I could think they're wrong. And when Brandon was on yesterday, Brandon was like stats driven, 7 Pro Bowls, 3 All Pros, and a chip, right? And 2 Super Bowl appearances, of course. And the average DB, that's what they accumulate. And when I was talking to Brandon after, he's like, one thing that the others might have, the Ed Reeds of the world, et cetera, is they have more longevity. They did it for longer. And I said to Brandon, I was like, but you could also invert that and say Earl accomplished what he accomplished in a shorter time frame but still a decade, 8, 9 years of absolute brilliance where he wasn't getting Bobby Wagner longevity Pro Bowl votes. He was earning Pro Bowl and All Pro because he really was one of the best for an entire decade. And oh, by the way, Dave, the decade where we happened to be, a very dominant defense.
Right. And when you talk about fizzling out at the end of your career, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, it's a very big outlier that people would quit while they were still on top.
Right.
I guess with those two examples, you got to play for Detroit. Who would want to stay in Detroit? But I believe that the body of work that he has while he was good definitely puts him in there.
Yeah. I happen to strenuously agree with you. He will make the Hall of Fame. He'll be in there. We'll see how long it takes, but very, very deserving of it, and very cool to have Earl back on the podcast. And Earl, you said it. You texted me. He said he would be happy to hop back on mid-season. Now, the one thing I will say, Earl said we're only winning 7 to 9 games, and I pushed back. I said, I don't know about that, Earl. So we'll have to do a mid-season gut check. But one more reason to subscribe, so you could stay in tune with Earl Thomas hopping back on. All right, so let's get to it, Bloomy. Let's go back to this. Wait a tick. Let me remove that. There we are. There we are, Dave. Okay, we get to size the right way, and that'll have to do. All right, so we are talking fantasy football, and we have, I know you like to tell the listeners that may not know, that we have a really cool Seahawkers focused fantasy group, and it's a really cool system. Why don't you explain it, and also maybe say a thing or two about why you might have an extra bragging right this year?
Well, the Ring of Honor Football League is from people from Discord and the Facebook Ring of Honor. And it was so popular that we had to split it into 2 leagues. And instead of having 2 equal leagues, we decided to do tiers. So you have the Premier League and you have the League 2 or League 1, Baby League, whatever we want to call it.
Hey now.
And the bottom 2 teams in the Premier League get demoted to the Baby League, and the top 2 teams in the Baby League get to the Premier League the next year. So you really got something to play for all throughout the year. Keeps people interested. As far as the other thing that you mentioned, so you know that I live in the UK. So all of the night games are actually very late at night, and I normally have to get up the next day and check the scores. As it turns out, in the championship game last year, I was playing Ross Bell, and we each had a Detroit Lion playing in the last game. So I just fell asleep hoping for the best. I woke up the next morning and there was a huge snowstorm in London. So I went outside and I was shoveling my snow, and I looked down at the score and I saw that I won, and I just started crying. All that I've worked for all my life, I just started crying.
This sounds familiar to another snowstorm story that I was perhaps talking about just yesterday. And I think there's a coincidence there. So that's amazing. And also Ross Bell, also a UK person, Seahawker. So amazing that we had 2 folks over in the UK, Ross being what would you call that? A naturalized Brit? What's the right word? I don't know. I know you're an expat.
A native. He's a native. He's a native.
Brit. There you
yes,
go.
yes.
There you go.
But seriously, I was really in trouble kind of towards the end of the season. And then I started doing these funny little curses on my opponents. And I won 6 straight, including the championship when I did that. And it was kind of, I was manifesting,
wow.
The good vibes there at the expense of others. But, I definitely did watch the Detroit game until Jameson Williams scored the first touchdown that looked like I had it locked up. So
there you go.
It was a good time.
Well, congrats. You were the champ for tier 1, and I was relegated last year to tier 2, and I don't get back to the big league unless I come in first or second place, and I'm committed to that this year. And I'm going to be leaning on your advice, which we're about to get into. So let's start here with, what did 2024 teach us, and were they different wrinkles than years past, or was it more of a same old fantasy story?
Well, last year was kind of weird because usually the running backs get hurt and the wide receivers stay healthy in the NFL.
Yep.
And last year that was opposite. The running backs, other than McCaffrey, who, he always gets injured,
What a shame.
stayed very healthy. And there were a lot of wide receivers that didn't come through. So um, that put more of the stress on the running backs and, of course, the quarterbacks. In fantasy, a lot of people don't understand that how valuable quarterbacks are because they look and they say, oh, I don't care if I get Jordan Love or Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the quarterback on both the baby league and my championship teams last year. So quarterbacks are very valuable if you get the top ones, and there's generally considered 4 top quarterbacks this year. So go get them.
Yep. So obviously Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and then is it Jaden? I'm assuming is considered top 4 at this point, or did I miss somebody?
We'll move on to Jaden. I consider Hurts the third.
Oh, right. No, that's true. I forgot Hurts. And, of course, they're just racking up a crazy, they don't throw that much, but they don't need to. He's efficient when they do throw the ball. And, of course, he gets a exorbitant amount of touchdowns with his feet and with some other humans pushing his ass, frankly, right? So that's
and that's the thing about Burrow, which is kind of funny. Burrow is the only pocket passer. Even Mahomes dropped off on the fantasy radar. He used to be the drop dead number 1 quarterback.
Yep.
But Burrow throws so many touchdowns and throws for so many yards that he might only run in 1 or 2 a year, but he still was the number 1 scoring quarterback last year, which is insane when you think about all the running quarterbacks that are in that tier.
Yeah, he's not doing it the way Lamar does for sure, but he's still Joey B. He's the truth. All right, so another lesson that I think you queued up also is that the wide receiver room, we talk about this on the Seahawkers podcast throughout. Really, this is why I think this conversation kind of is valuable both ways into the real world, is that, in the draft processes, you'll hear Adam talk a lot about, like, I don't want to take a wide receiver first round because there's so many of them that have entered the league, and there's a lot of really good ones. Hence, we get a 5th rounder this year at Torrey Horton, getting outside of fantasy for a second, but it's relevant back to the idea that the wide receiver pool is really deep.
It really is, and that is very, very appropriate for a fantasy discussion too, because so many people just want to go after this wide receivers. I can assure you that Jamar Chase will be the number 1 pick in both places.
I've tin cupped this thing every single year, Dave. I'm always like 3 wide receivers, and I'm like, I got top 3, and then it sounds like the variance between what I selected versus what I could have had is really my folly, and maybe I should make a change of plans based on what you're finding.
Yeah, and you got to have a wide receiver. My first pick last year was Jefferson, but I also had Brian Thomas, who I picked very late. Yeah, awesome. And that guy was like the 5th leading wide receiver. So you don't have to just pack up your roster with wide receivers. You're going to miss out on that incredible quarterback or the running back that you're going to need. I don't want to get too far ahead of where I'm going with this, but my actual secret of success in fantasy football is the big 3. Mm-hmm. Within the first at least 4 rounds, if not the first 3, I want my quarterback, I want my wide receiver, I want my running back. 3 years ago, the only reason I didn't win the championship was because of the Damar Hamlin situation. That year, I had Burrow, Ramondre Stevenson, and I can't even remember my wide receiver, but he was a top 2-3 wide receiver. Last year, Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, and Justin Jefferson. And it's like everybody, when they saw my roster every week, they're like, "Oh my God, we got to play those 3 guys." And if you're passing by somebody like Josh Allen because you're like, "Oh my God, I picked a wide receiver first, and I need a running back, so I'm going to take Breece Hall." It's like, now in the middle of the season, would you rather see Breece Hall on your team or Josh Allen?
Yeah, as much as I hate the Jets, and I won't see Breece Hall anywhere near anything I'm doing. He's also a trade candidate from everything we're hearing. That Braylon Allen's looked better than Breece Hall has, which will be interesting to see if the Jets move on from him. Firmly cementing K9 as the best running back in that group. Thank you very much. So with that, the macro fantasy advice is often, from the quote unquote experts is, oh, you could wait on quarterback because that's deep and there's 18 good quarterbacks. But, your point is, but if you get one of the top 2 to 3, I don't know, it's just more of a set it and forget it and team building that I have sacrificed that year after year. And I've done okay with picking up like pretty good quarterbacks that maybe outperform a little bit. But your advice is still, no, just go get one of the top 3 or 4 dudes, lock it in and figure the rest out later because it's deeper, essentially.
When you know that you're getting at least 25 points and maybe up to, I think Allen had a 59-point day last year.
Not bad.
He actually threw a touchdown pass to himself, which was the rare 21-point play.
Yeah,
so he scored more on that one play than a lot of quarterbacks will score in a whole game. So just that peace of mind of going into a game where your great quarterback is going to score probably 10 more than even an elite quarterback. It's an importance that a lot of people don't really understand.
Yep, and there's only so many of them, so put the chips in earlier, probably regardless of format. Just go get that big dog. All right, so one other lesson from 2024 is that everybody wants to chase, or many people want to chase. Like, I've got to have that top tier tight end. Got to have that top tier tight end. However, if you think top tier quarterbacking is rare, wait till you drive the tight ends because they're way more rare from the stats that you pulled up.
Yeah, and tight ends last year, 4 tight ends scored over 200 points, where 31 wide receivers scored over 200 points. So even the great ones are just an average wide receiver at times.
Yeah.
So, everybody just jumps right in there like, oh my God, I got to get Bowers, or I got to get in the past Kelsey. And it wasn't not worth the investment to draft a tight end high. And another thing that you see on my team is I never draft tight ends high.
Yeah, I like CBS fantasy. We talk about that a bit. They're still my favorite out there I like their personalities and stuff. And they've coined the phrase for tight ends, late or great, or great or late. And it's like, if you're not going to commit to a top one, then just wait, wait and wait and wait. Cause it really plateaus, not in a negative sense. It just flattens out. And your point on top of that is, hey, look, that delta you think you're getting because you've got a top tier versus the next guy who has like a tier 3 tight end, actually on a weekly basis, you are better off just getting another banging wide receiver or another banging running back at that point and waiting on tight end because you'll outperform that way more often than you will searching for a top tight end.
Yeah, and I'll go back to my last point where let's say Trey McBride is available with the second round, the 9th pick in the second round.
Right.
And you might be like, oh, wow, Trey McBride, he's definitely going to be the top tight end. I'm taking Josh Allen there. And when I play you, owner of Trey McBride, you're going to be happy as a clam when you get 24 points from him. And I'm just going to throw up another 35 from my guy.
Right. I mean, in your example, you might be, you get Josh Allen there and then way down the board, you got David Njoku as an example, right? And you're like, okay, so put that up against your, I don't know, Dak Prescott and Trey McBride combo. And more often than not, I'll take Josh leading that. So I like how the math works out there. It makes sense, and I might actually listen this year, Dave. So so I can get back into the big boy league and the big girl league. All right. So how about things you're seeing out there, or your general observations as we head into 2025? I'll preface it by saying last year was a bit of a, the famous hip hop song, Return of the Mac, right? Whether that's R&B or hip hop, but last year was a bit of a return of the running back. And I do wonder if now people are, with Saquon's success and Henry just keeping on and others who are really like Jahmyr Gibbs, et cetera, are people maybe going back? Are you seeing mock drafts, et cetera, where it's getting a little bit running back heavier? You're like, no, that's the right thing to do.
Well, I think that the best running backs are like second to early third round running backs. So even though, I just had my little soliloquy about wide receivers, it's still great to get a great wide receiver. You want to get that one, but then don't worry about getting 10, because I actually did a little mock draft. And if you have the 5th or 6th pick, you might be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs or CeeDee Lamb. Now, who would you pick there?
Actually, doesn't really matter on format because Gibbs catches a lot of passes. I'd prefer to have Gibbs, but I'm also being a little bit. I'm not usually believing in the Cowboys this year, though they might be behind a lot and throwing the ball over the field. Still, I would take Gibbs.
Okay, if you took Gibbs in that mock draft, you come back and the best wide receiver you have available to you in the second round is Ladd McConkey. Okay. If you pick CeeDee Lamb, a guy who's probably going to have well over 100 catches and be pretty much the main receiving threat in the Cowboys, you come back and you got Josh Jacobs available as your running back. Now, who would you rather have, Gibbs and McConkey or CeeDee Lamb and Josh Jacobs?
I'd rather have the latter for sure. If that plays out that way, and then other names too that maybe it's a bit of a reach, but I really like Chase Brown's game a lot. So, and on a team where they don't have a good defense in Cincinnati, they're gonna score to keep up, and they got Joey B. That's another one that'd slide in there with the Jacobs side too. It's like whether that was Lamb and Brown or Lamb and Jacobs. Yeah, those are teams that are going to score, are committed to running the football, and CeeDee Lamb is still a top tier wide receiver. So yeah, in that exercise, I take the latter. And
if I put myself in that situation where I took Jahmyr Gibbs and there was McConkey, my best bet, who do you think I'd take? I'd take Josh Allen there, and then I'd wait for the next tier of wide receivers.
Gotcha. I was going to say, because I might take JSN there, although we will talk Seahawks, by the way. We know this is a Seahawks pod and we got some things queued up for that as well. So stick around. But again, this is more of the exercise of, we're going to play these dudes. So you should know them. All right. So how about, you talked about your big three already, so we canvassed that. What about your philosophy on the rookie class? You mentioned Brian Thomas before. Now that chalk it up to luck, chalk it up to, hey, he was right next to Malik or whatever it is in your rankings. But what's your overall philosophy with the rookies coming in and how, now one little sidecar, there's dudes who are rising like a meteor. How would you say this? Meteorically? They're rising fast risers. Quickly. like a Travion Henderson is rising insanely right now. Okay, but I know, right? So you're talking about late shots on rookies, but how quick are you going to jump the gun on someone you might really love?
Well, I make my own cheat sheet. I don't use cheat sheets from fantasy sites. I don't believe in fantasy sites for anything but entertainment, for two reasons. First of all, they're very biased. I've been trying to tell you for years to stop listening to CBS. They're very fun. Biased. They're very biased towards the Giants, and it's kind of like you'll always end up with saying, "Oh my God, did I get that Giant?" And then the other thing is the group thing, where like I listen to the Ringer Fantasy. I think it's a great show, very funny. But they seem to change their lists according to what each other are saying. And I know that they did that on CBS too. So if I do my own list, I got nobody questioning why I might have put this guy 10 spots ahead or 5 spots below. I don't want to second guess. Like, the way that I create my list is a very long list of every player, and I project what they're going to have per year. And then I assign that point system of my 2 leagues to see what they're going to have for points. And that is how I pick my players.
Now, let me jump in there. Do you, do you get to a point where you're like, okay, I had this guy projected a little bit lower, but boy, do I like his trend, or boy, do I like some news coming around here. Now, I realize you could just update your rankings, but let's say you're sitting there game day and you've got your tiers, but you got a gut feeling about a guy that is 2 or 3 rows below somebody else. Or you're like, nope, I created my system for the purpose of the system. This guy's projected for more. I'm sticking with my math.
I will check out training camp and preseason performances and adjust my list. I adjust my own rankings, not based on other ranking lists. I will look at other ranking lists and I'll say, why do I have this guy 20 points ahead or below? But then I can always justify it. And the reason is, like, again, when I'm doing my projections, I'm not going to put McCaffrey at the number 4 running back because I think he's going to get hurt. So I project him to what I think he's going to get at the end of the year. And he ends up falling as the 12th running back. And I'm not going to change that. I don't care if everybody says he's the second running back, or one guy this morning said he should be the number 1 overall pick. And I'm like, no, that is, I'm not going to pick him here. So, and that's a very extreme case, but you might, DJ Moore, I really think he's going to have a great year. He might be the 22nd ranked wide receiver for me. I don't have my list in front of me, where everybody else might have him in the 30s. But I'm not going to change. I'm not going to say, oh man, maybe I ranked him too high. I really believe that he's going to have that type of year. So one of my big pitfalls for fantasy football players is they just rely so much on the podcast and the websites, and it's just like, kind of trust your own instincts. Yeah. And I do understand not everybody's retired and will put as much time into it as I do, but like, make your own list.
Right. Yeah. That's a kind of a tried and truism that was like, at least go out and make your tiers, know who you want and put them. If you use a tiered system, have that, and don't just use a top 100 sitting on a CBS or something like that, because the groupthink thing, I'll give you an example. In CBS right now, there's a lot of, now he's a little dinged, so I don't know if they're moving him down because of that, because it's soft tissue and I don't trust it, but I also don't trust the team. They're like going gaga for Devon Achane. And they're like, oh man, he could be second or third off the board, like running back. And I'm sitting there going, what am I missing? I know he's a nice player. I know what his points per game are when he's healthy. And yes, they've been outlierish. They've been really, really good. And I still see, now he's dinged, and I see a team that is not on the ascent. So what about that factor in general? Like last year, everybody knew the Detroit Lions were going to score a lot of points. And if you loaded up on Detroit Lions, you did well. Maybe you won or didn't win, but you had a good base of stuff you could just bank on week in, week out. Tua is, we all know, a sack away from being out multiple weeks again because of his past history. And it just seems to be a team that's not going in the right direction. So am I insane about not buying Achane, or am I being, do I have a little too much bias there because I just think the team is sinking?
No, in fact, this is exactly what I'm stressing to people, is like, follow your instinct. I actually, after I do my list, I look at people that I just wouldn't draft, even like McCaffrey, I wouldn't draft. So I put a red slash through him, even at number 12 running back. Achane, I think he ended up like number 9 for me. Everybody else has him like number 4 or 5. Yeah. But I just wouldn't draft him because the same as Tyreek Hill. I believe the same thing you do. I just don't trust what could happen to the Dolphins in the likely occasion that Tua gets his eggs scrambled again.
Yeah. And even if he is out there, maybe there'll be a pretty good offense again, but maybe not. Things do deteriorate over time. And again, for me, not a team trending in the right direction, while others in their division are either still very good with the Bills or the Patriots, like clearly getting better. And then there's the Jets, who are just a disaster.
You love the Patriots.
They're good Patriots. I do live in Connecticut. I see a lot of Patriots.
I know.
But I also like.
You bum me out.
I like Vrabel. I do like the Patriots in that way. All right. So top picks. How about that? Let's segue.
Oh, well, but you know what? Actually, we went off on a tangent there. You asked me a really good question on taking late shots on rookies.
Oh, yeah, right.
So in the last 3 years, we've seen Puka Nacua, Brock Bowers, and Brian Thomas be excellent picks. Brock Bowers wasn't even drafted in our league last year.
Wow.
So this year,
Woof.
I think it's wide receiver is a young man's game, and I see a lot of really good receivers coming out that you can get in that 8th or 9th round. Emeka Ekuba for Tampa. Everybody on Tampa is hurt. Jalen McMillan just went on the IR. And Godwin, who knows when he'll be back. Ekuba looked great in the preseason. I liked him before that. Golden from Green Bay. No Green Bay receiver in the last like 4 years has really taken the reins and been the number one receiver. I like Luther Burden of Chicago. I like Ty Warren, Colston Loveland. Like these are guys you can get in the 8th or ninth round. And like Brian Thomas did with me last year, he was a rock for me. Like people were scared enough to see Justin Jefferson when they faced me, and then they're like, "Oh my God, he's got Thomas too.
Yeah, he's got BTJ. we're in trouble." Yeah, for sure. All right, so good stuff there, and yeah, I play in an IDP league, and it's not a franchise league because it's just not, but it is an individual defensive player league. I have that draft this Sunday, heading down to Long Island for that. But you get to keep one rookie each year in the round you drafted him. So you get, and it's like a 24 round physical board draft. So by the time you get down there, there's so much good dart throwing going on. And if you're a little bit more research with who those rookies are, like for me going down to that Long Island draft, I can almost guarantee you I'll be the only dude sitting in like the 22nd round being like, yeah, I'll take Torrey Horton.
Nice.
It's an absolute dart throw. Nobody knows about him because it's New York and they're not paying attention to Seattle, but we do. So,
also in a 24 round draft, I'm sure they're all drunk by the 17th. So,
yes, but by the time they draw the straws for the draft order, usually that party's pretty tipsy. All right, so let's talk about your absolute kind of must-haves position by position. Let's try to rapid fire this pretty quickly because I think these are fairly obvious names. But okay. QB, you emphasized how important it is. Who are your top three that you're like, I need to walk away with one of these three?
I think Joe Burrow is the number one guy who I really want because I just think that there is nothing on the other side of the ball and they're going to have to score 30 to 40 points a game.
They also but real quick, they also don't have an offensive line, but I understand your point. They'll be chasing. But boy, oh boy, they did not upgrade their offensive line either, so man, I love Burrow. I think you're right about it. I'm just playing devil's advocate with like, man, Burrow might be in for his most hero ball season. And maybe that's why you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah. And it's not just that. Burrow, if you watch him, he's always throwing. He's always dropping back. There's nothing better as a fantasy owner to watch a team whose quarterback, you happened to happen last year with me with Buffalo, they're just dropping back every play. It's like, yes, I'm about to get like 0.5 points for this play.
Yep.
All right, so
Burrow. Yep.
Yeah. And the good thing about wanting Burrow is that he's going to be there in the third round. I pick at the top of the round, so it's going to have to be the third. He won't last till the fourth. So that means I could probably get my running back, wide receiver, whoever those two are, then grab Burrow. And I'm giving away my draft strategy to people who are potentially in my league, but it is what it is.
That's okay. All right. So if it's not Burrow,
and then of course, if I don't expect Josh Allen to be there in the second where I pick, but if he is, it's like running to the podium with a card.
Makes sense.
I don't think I would feel that way about Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels. I think I would just like pass on them and wait for Burrow if one of those three were available.
Okay. All right. So I like that. One sneaky one, just in volume alone. And this is not wait and take him and then forget about it. But as a backup, I think an interesting backup QB that you could take way down the board is Joe Flacco. Because look at his last 2-3 years of when he was in charge at Cleveland or where was he, Indy after that. They just throw the ball all over the yard. And whoever his number one wide receiver is, spiked. So if that was Downs in Indy or what's his face, the ex-Bronco over in Cleveland now, forgetting his name, and also Judy and also Njoku, both just absolutely killed it when Flacco was back there because they're throwing like 45 times a game. So it's just pencil it in.
And the only thing I would caution you on that is when you have two young draft picks, you're going to want to get them in as soon as possible.
Sure.
And Flacco is going to be a 4 or 5 week caretaker. For me, a backup that I'd be looking for is like, for some reason, I have no idea why Jordan Love is rated so low. It looks like you can get Jordan Love in the eighth or ninth round. And once I
Yeah.
have the core of my team, if I can get a guy like that in case Burrow does get destroyed, I'm more than happy to ride out the rest of the season with somebody like him or CJ Stroud.
Yeah, you could plug and play and be pretty happy about Jordan. And he has those high highs too. You know,
Yeah.
he has those weeks where you look down, you're like, oh damn, he scored 37 this week. And he doesn't often crater where it's like, oh, he cost you a victory. He usually has a pretty good baseline, and he has these spike weeks where he could really carry the day, which is a pretty valuable dude to have in football, in fantasy for sure. All right, so running backs, very quick fire here. I know you got your top picks, and they are what they are, right? So Saquon, Gibbs, Bijan. I've heard it's now Bijan, not Bijan, and of course King Henry. So just force rank them real quick. What's your 1 through 4 with those dudes?
Definitely number one, Bijan. Number two, Gibbs. Number three, I would probably go Henry. And who was the fourth one?
Saquon.
Oh, I don't like Saquon. Not after that many carries.
I didn't like
He's
him.
on my DND list.
I didn't like him last year, and boy was I wrong, because we had a chance to draft him in that aforementioned Long Island League, which my partner OPP, great dude, but he will not let me forget that one, because he's like, let's just take Saquon. I'm like, nah, man, it's not going to work out in Philly. There's so much, just tumult, and Sirianni's a jerk face, and whoops, boy was I wrong. So we didn't win last year. So,
But they've already said that they're going to lighten his load a little. And
sure, a
the
little.
Eagles are the type of team that can get it clinched in like week 12 and really lighten his load a lot when you need him the most, which is what happened last year to
Yeah.
the Saquon owner.
Yeah, and I think we all know who the top dogs are in the wide receiver market, and we already covered the premier tight ends. I'll go to tight end real quick. For me, yes, I Bowers is going to be the volume monster you think. It's got Jacoby Myers there this of course last year and this year. Brand new team. You got Ashton Genty who's going to get his touches. You got Deontay Thornton, the rookie, the speedster from Tennessee. He's going to get his looks from Geno as well. And with all that said, I think Bowers is still going to get a lot of volume. Though they got Michael Mayer too, the tight end from Notre Dame that they're saying they want to get more touches. With all that said, I still think Kittle might be, I don't know, the most steady Eddie of the group.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you'll never see me draft any of those tight ends that you name.
Yeah.
So when I assess my tight ends, I'm always looking for that next tier, the Hawkinsons, the Njokus, the Warrens. I would be more than happy to walk away from the draft with Warren.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, yeah, he's going to be, I mean, you know how I felt about the guy in the pre-draft process. That was my number one crush just the entire time. And we almost got to us. I'm grateful he didn't, because now we have a good left guard and we need that. And we have tight ends, but I was smitten, and I do understand that. But now I could fulfill that fantasy, Dave, in fantasy.
Yep. There you go. You can have them.
Fun. And then of course, wide receivers, you got your top five, which are going to be Jamar, JJ, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Amon Ra, and BTG, Brian Thompson is going to be right outside that top five at this point. Even within that top five, is there a tier within a tier for you that you're like, I'll do this guy first round?
I honestly think that this is what I'm looking at. This is the decision of those guys that you just mentioned that I'll be looking at with the number 4 pick. Just like last year, I took JJ last year. Everybody was questioning whether he would be anything without Cousins, and he definitely was great. Honestly, in spite of what you said earlier, I think CeeDee Lamb is the best of that group. I think he'll get the most volume in the PPR. I think that if I pick a wide receiver at number 4, it will probably be Lamb.
Well, they don't have an established real running game reestablished in Dallas yet, right? They're in shotgun a lot. They play in domes very often and good weather, and they're behind a lot. So that mixture has got to be attractive. And Dak, when healthy, he can sling it. So I don't not like it. The other Cowboy, which is just kind of a value pick in general, I really like George Pickens as a wide receiver too, especially in a league. Let me put the small caveat that I would prefer him in a half point PPR or nothing for receptions. In full PPR, he just doesn't get the volume of other wide receivers that you would want to accumulate that way. But boy, oh boy, I know what Dak can do with the ball, and I know he likes taking the shots on the outside. And I know Pickens can high point and go get contested catches. I like that combination. I think Pickens, if healthy, I think you could dial him into 8 to 10 touchdowns pretty easily. So I guess I'm a little bit concerned that if I think that of his touchdown total, that I'm also like it's got to come from somewhere, and maybe that's where my math is coming in to lower CD maybe a smidgen because I do believe Pickens is going to have a pretty good year as their two.
Yeah, and I wouldn't make that mistake because there is no running game on the
Hmm.
Cowboys. Now, if they end up trading last second for Brees Hall or K9, maybe that'll dent CD's value a bit. If that happened, I might just go back to JJ at that point, or take a running back at that point.
Yeah,
Maybe Gibbs is the guy if CD's not there.
I get.
But
Yeah,
there is going to be plenty of balls to go around for Pickens and for CD.
I think JJ is interesting. Justin Jefferson, of course, because last year I got him in a number of leagues, and why? Because people were really afraid of the quarterback situation. Right? They were
Yeah.
like, well, we don't know what's going to happen. And then he was amazing again. And Sam Darnold is now a Seahawk and went 14-3. And we know the rest of that story. Similarly, I believe in JJ McCarthy. I think he's a good quarterback. Now, might there be some bumps in the road? Yeah, this is for all intents and purposes his rookie season because he had to kind of be redshirted last year with an injury. And with that, I really like JJ. So I'm still willing to take Jefferson 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots ahead of where somebody else might. And I realize he's a first rounder. So what are you talking about? I mean, hey, if I'm sitting there at 3, I still might be tempted because I believe in the quarterback in that system. And I've seen. I mean, Justin Jefferson is on an all timer trajectory. He's a lock Hall of Famer, barring catastrophic injury, right? So a very very talented dude. But it's that decision of like if you're sitting at 3, kind of the exercise we went through earlier. Would you rather have CD or Jameer Gibbs? Man, I think I'd rather have. I trust JJ and I trust Kevin O'Connell. Which let's pivot to this because this is getting into trusting Kevin O'Connell. Last year we talked about it earlier. Hey, if you just trailed the Lions and just gobbled up Lions, you did pretty good. Now the team has lost some coaching. Are you comet trailing some of those coaches to some of their new destinations?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to think about Chicago and Jacksonville. Chicago with Ben Johnson, and Jacksonville's got Liam Cohen, who turned Tampa Bay into a leviathan last year. You've got,
Mm-hmm.
I think, a very talented Lawrence. You've got Thomas. You got Hunter there. And then you look at the skill players over in Chicago with Caleb and DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore. He might turn Roshan Johnson into his next Montgomery. There's a lot of good things that might happen in that offense in Chicago. And I think Caleb's one of my large sleepers. You talk about like if I can get a backup quarterback that I am more than confident with, if my starter goes down, Caleb is a guy.
And, I think until this past weekend, you might have been able to get Caleb super, super late. And then Caleb goes out there and has a pretty good second game where people are like, oh, yeah, that's why he was drafted first overall. We'll see. They have an interesting team. And of course, the new coaching is something to watch. It's an interesting makeup. And for me, it makes it difficult. You mentioned DJ Moore earlier, who I love as a NFL wide receiver. And I think he's been a good volume fantasy receiver. But they also draft Luther Burden. They also bring in Colston Loveland. They also have a second year Roma Dunze. It's just one of those, man, I don't know where the distribution is going to be. So to your point, maybe it's like, well, screw the distribution. Give me the distributor and give me Caleb late. And that might be a nice, a nice way to swing that this year. All right, man, let's swing, talk about swinging. You are, besides this show, besides us getting on every single year and doing this one, which I think is fun and I adore, you also come on once a year on the Seahawkers podcast, definitely with Brandon. Sometimes I'm on there as well. And you put your tinfoil hat on and you have a different topic, but it really can impact fantasy. Tell folks about that.
So I always use my schedule analysis when it comes down to, like, you always have these groups of players. Let's take a really good example. Second round running backs, Jacobs, Taylor, Chase Brown, and I can't believe the fourth guy. I can't think of him right now.
Pull it up.
Bucky Irving. Okay.
Buckeye, yeah,
So those four guys are right together. Well, I might at that point just like look at my schedule analysis and say who has the best or the worst schedule. I have seen good schedules for fantasy would be Seattle, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Atlanta. Bad schedules are the Giants, Cleveland, New England, and Vegas, which is why I think Ashton Genty is an absolute bad pick in the first round. Whoever picks Ashton Genty is going to suffer a little bit of disappointment. I don't think he's going to be terrible like Clyde Edwards-Hilaire terrible.
Right.
But I don't think he is a number one pick.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because of the Vegas schedule. And the same thing with Brock Bowers. Not only does he have the schedule working against him, he has a guy who traditionally does not throw to his tight ends. And that's his new quarterback. But getting back to that, Cincinnati, I think, has a great schedule. So maybe Chase Brown is the guy if I'm vacillating between those four very similar running backs.
Yeah, interesting. And I had Chase Brown last year in a couple of my leagues and got him super late. And man, oh man, he was the gift that kept on giving. And he, to me, just kept reminding me of like a slightly thicker Matt Forte. And if you remember Matt Forte, that dude was a fantasy monster. Also a really good NFL, complete NFL running back. And he was good out of the backfield and just a monster. And to me, I'm like, I watched Chase Brown. I'm like, this guy just reminds me of Forte. And again, a little bit more, junk in the trunk, if you will.
Right.
But still,
and one fun thing in fantasy football is when you stack players.
Yeah.
So if I go out and I get Burrow and I have Chase, doesn't matter if they run or pass or touchdown, I'm going to get points for it. And I love that. Might even get their kicker just in case they fail in the red zone.
Heck yeah. I mentioned OPP, my partner in crime that I'll be drafting with down in Long Island on Sunday. And he's unfortunately a Cowboys fan. And, we can't all be perfect, but over a couple of years, he's been partners for a long time now. And there are a couple of years in the early Dak, Dak regime where he was really coming on, where we had Dak and the Cowboys won. And there were years we had Russ and like Lockett. And it's just great. It's just the emojis are flying on Sundays, Dave, is all I could say when you get that combo.
Oh, yeah.
You just hit that, you hit that the accelerator, whatever you want to call it, man. It's really cool to stack that way. So I do like that. All right, so let's talk about some dudes you might personally like more than the experts. You mentioned Caleb already. You got some others on there. You got four others you want to cover. I'd say
that list actually changed since I sent you this 2 weeks ago. Okay. But I still have a list.
Okay.
So I'm high on Tony Pollard. I have him eight spots higher than the consensus. I think that with Tajay Spears hurt and him being with a rookie quarterback who's going to be leaning on the running game, hopefully, I think Pollard's going to have a big year, and I think he's pretty vastly underrated at this moment. Matthew Golden, I had already mentioned. I have like 15 spots higher than the consensus. I have Tyler Warren in my top 7, and most people have him 11th. And I am low on your friend and mine, Breece Hall. I have him 22nd. His consensus is 13th running back. Lambs and Whiners, none of them I like. Now, it's not only because I don't want Lambs and Whiners on my team, but with Stafford the way he is and just one play away from catastrophe, that will just nosedive the values of Nakua and Devontae Adams. And the only guy that might survive that would be Kieran Williams. And with the Whiners, I don't know what's going on with them. If they need to change their turf or change their athletic director, whatever it is, they're just dropping like flies. And when you have a team dropping like flies with players like Kittle and McCaffrey, it's just red flags everywhere.
Yeah, they're an older team to begin with, and that's across the line. That's across their talent positions. Talk about the when we say whiners, for those that might not be familiar, that of course is the stupid 49ers. And then there's one player that you did have on your list, or initial list, that you didn't hit on, and he's probably my favorite on this list. I'm in love with Drake London this year, and it's primarily because I'm in love with Michael Penix. I think, and I saw people like, oh, we didn't see. Here's this. I don't know. Sometimes I hear these arguments and I'm like, what were you watching? Like the argument I hear for Penix is we didn't see enough. You know, it wasn't enough, like meaning enough games. And yeah, I get it. But what did you see in the games that he started and played? Him going toe to toe with Jaden Daniels, going blow for blow. What I see with Penix, and this is why it impacts Drake London, is whenever Penix wants to access an 18-yard out, which is like one of the top pillar throws of an NFL quarterback, whenever he wants it, it's there. And who's receiving this 18-yard out on a dime, on a rope, 6 inches from the sideline? It's Drake London. And once Penix got going, Drake London became, to me, a very clear top 6, top 8 wide receiver. And he still, to me, doesn't feel like he's getting that kind of love. And I would push him even higher because I believe in that team and I like teams that play in domes a lot.
In life and in fantasy, I love London.
Starstruck.
And the reason that I didn't put him on there is because I just have him ranked too high. It's like
Gotcha.
It's like telling you to go out and pick Jefferson.
Yeah.
He's just now the things that he also has going for him is Mooney's hurt. He's got a soft tissue issue right now, and you always in fantasy want to get the top receiver in a team with a great running back and the running back on a team with great receivers because the defense just can't account for everybody. So while everybody's keyed in on Robinson, who especially for Robinson, because he's a pass catcher as well, London is just flying free. And last year, at the end of last year, we just saw what London's made of. We saw why he was the number one pick for them, and he's great. I have him rated quite high. Problem is, like in that stretch between the 4th pick and the 10th pick of the 2nd round, he'll be gone. He's just ungettable unless I pick him 4, and that's just too high for him.
So I think the interesting person to kind of think the either or for me this time around is we talked about who's the top 5 wide receivers, and I was saying, hey, BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., should be pushing into that top 5, top 6 also. And the other one I would throw in there is Drake London. I think he's pitching into that upper echelon because, again, I do believe in the quarterback. With that, I think we're going to see a lot of folks taking Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is awesome, who has been an all-pro, who is a yak monster and gets lots of touches. But this year, I don't know. I personally, I would be taking Drake London above Amon-Ra, and that might be controversial, but I wonder where your rankings have it.
That not a question. My actual rankings. I hate to give this away for people who are drafted with me, but my top receivers are 1 Chase, 2 Lamb, 3 Neighbors, 4 London, 5 Thomas, 6 Jefferson.
Okay, there you go.
And I only dropped Jefferson because he got a soft tissue
which is
injury in preseason, but he's definitely that he might go up by the time we draft.
For sure. All right. So appreciate that. So you got him quite high, which is great. I see it similarly. And he's somebody I'll be betting on, he's a dude I'll spring up and say, I don't care. That's a guy I like, and conviction and hunch, et cetera, and pull the trigger on it. So, all right, let's rotate over to our beloved Seattle Seahawks, why this all started in the first place. Let's talk Seahawks. We already talked about the ROH, the Ring of Honor League, and you pulled some cool stats. And I've got to take about our Seahawks this year, but you've got some interesting things to start out with. And why don't we start at the running back position? Because, not only is there, I think everybody understands K9 might be the most talented guy back there, but is he the best fantasy running back? What do you think?
Well, most people don't know, but Charbot actually finished ahead of K9 in points last year. And this year, if you look at the average draft position, K9 is probably going to go in about the 4th round, and Charbot is going to go in the 7th or 8th round. Is that fine? Yes, on potential. But I can tell you, again, we know that K9 is potentially on the trade list. And if he gets traded, Charbot suddenly can be a top 10 running back.
Yeah. And even potentially without being traded, and it's a matter of, we talked about trailing teams in the quarterback sense that are going to throw the ball a lot. Well, in the Seahawks realm, between what we have out there on defense, which we could assume, and that's based on last year, that this should be at least above average defense, hopefully better, but at least above average, certainly a keep you in games defense. And then the mentality of what Kubiak clearly wants to be and clearly wants to do, it just might be quite tilted towards we'll run the ball a lot more. And that includes things like bringing in Jalen Milroe for, gadgety packages where he's run the ball on 3rd and short and he's run the ball on 4th down. Just put that into the run category. So
wait, do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Oots, 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 oots.
I mean, come on, you and I are old men. We remember ground chuck. I mean, we're at you know what happens when you put a fullback in there.
Heck yeah. So let me get to my overarching Seahawks point, because we're alluding to it. So as a Seahawks fan, and we're in leagues with Seahawks fans, and then we have leagues that are non-Seahawks. Cool. Obviously, if you're in a Seahawks league, they have this natural inflation and you're getting potentially less value from your Seahawks, but maybe you take them because your heart wants what the heart wants. With all that said, I have so few strong opinions about Seahawks skill positions this year. And the reason being is I think Seattle is going to score a decent amount of points. I think upper half, and that easily could be top 3rd if we see what we saw during the Kansas City game, and we just dominate the line of scrimmage. With all that, I think there's going to be a crazy amount of dilution. I just think that Milroe is going to get his touches in packages, and he's going to gobble up anywhere from 6 to 10 touchdowns. I think that you're going to get a good amount of splits in the backfield. Then I think you're going to get these rando weeks where it's like, oh, Bobo scored twice. Oh, Oots scored the first touchdown of the game. Oh, Torrey Horton, was the star of the game this time around. And JSN and Cup might be steady eddies. I just think their ceiling from a fantasy perspective, and that includes Darnold, is really quite depressed, because I really think we're going to see lots of folks contributing. Unlike, let's say, the Bengals, where it's a Burrow and your three absolute studs, and that's it. This is way different than that scenario.
Yeah, and I think JSN does have the talent to be a 2nd rounder, and he probably will go in the 2nd round in our Ring of Honor draft.
Yep.
He probably will go in the 3rd round in a regular non-Seahawks draft, but I think he's going to get a lot of volume. I think he's going to be the number 1 option. He'll get a lot of short passes. Maybe he'll get a 20-yarder thrown in there and see what he can do with the run after catch. I think JSN is definitely worth it, but I can hear you on just everybody else who we're talking about: Barner, Arroyo, Horton, Cup. It's it's got to be wait and see. You can't invest a lot of draft capital in these guys without knowing what they're going to do. Yeah. It's going to happen anyway. You will see. I'm very fortunate to have Vincent Parker in our draft, so he pushes the better.
You can't take DK anymore.
But he will tend to push the good players down because, and I'm just joking with him, but
of course
we have very fervent Seahawks fans in our leagues, and they want to watch their Seahawks, and you should pick the guy who you want to watch. And if it's between Juwan Jennings and Cooper Kupp, pick Kupp. That's the guy you want to watch.
No dirty 49ers here. Although third and Juwan, I do like him. I do like him as a pro. I just hate him as a 49er because he's a 49er. But I do like that dude. Okay, so let's talk about Seattle. Let's talk about Seahawks QB. Let's talk. We touched on Milroe. Look, Darnold had a really good year last year. It's another thing I have a hard time squaring when people are like, he's got to prove it. I'm like, he went 14-3 in the toughest division in football and put up 43, 44, 4,500 yards, 30 something touchdowns. Yes, good system with Kevin O'Connell. Yes, they play in a dome and play a lot of games inside, which I do think matters. With all that being said, this Kubiak system looks like it's going to fit Darnold just fine, but to me, you've got that big asterisk that is Jalen Milroe sitting there that I think is just going to take touchdowns away from Darnold. So what'd you have? He was QB7 last year. Where would you project that Darnold will be this year?
I will be surprised if he's picked before the 12th or the 13th round in our leagues. I would be surprised if he was picked at all in a non-Seahawks league. It's the system and the identity in Minnesota is passing. Justin Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson. These are weapons that we don't have. Even their running back was a pass catching running back. So our identity is running the ball. Because wait, I just heard it again. Yeah, and it's just not conducive to the type of numbers that he put up last year. Pick him if you want him. Pick him if you want to have him on your roster. Last year, my opponent Ross, that was his quarterback in the finals. So he is capable. We have seen it. I just don't think that he's the one that's going to be carrying the torch for this offense.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that is very fair. Let's land this seaplane. Let's land this on our Seahawks defense. We haven't talked defense yet. I mentioned IDP earlier, which is fine. Very, very, very few people percentage-wise care or play IDP. But in every fantasy football league, I'd say almost everyone, you are drafting a defense. So how about our Seattle Seahawks D? Where would you take them? And try to put that bias aside. What do you think how do you score in defense? It's sacks, it's interceptions, and then depressing scores, right? So what do you see there as a Seahawks defense cocktail, and where would you take them?
Well, you also got to think about the returns too. Return touchdowns both on special teams and on defense, which is pretty big.
We won't get much there. So let's unless it's Horton, and Horton really surprises.
Well, but the defense, we got fast, strong defensive players. I mean, if Big Cat can score a touchdown, then anybody can with this defense. So I would say most people will wait till the second to last of the last round to take their defense, and they should. I think defenses are pretty much the same. But this defense, this is the third year under Macdonald. I think they're going to really gel. It's his team now. It's his players, his system. I believe they are going to be at least a top 10 defense, if not top 5. And they will be worth picking that maybe one earlier round, especially with the Seahawks tax. When you're in the Ring of Honor League, you might even have to go 4 rounds before the end to take them. But you'll be happy with them. You'll be happy watching them. They're on the field half the time. It's yes. I love taking the defense of my teams.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, and if it's not the Seahawks, let's just say one or two others that you are high on. Is it the usual suspects? Is it the Eagles? Who are you like, you know what, if you're not getting the hometown team, who would you be targeting for defense?
Niners.
Oh no, Niners? No, we can't end like that. Why?
They've got a really good schedule for fantasy defenses, and they have personnel.
God, I'm not.
But if I'm, no, there's a lot of people that won't do that, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, me too.
Never. I kind of like Tampa Bay's defense. I think they're always somewhat opportunistic. Eagles definitely you want to think about. You want to think about guys that'll get a lot of sacks. Buffalo's always a good defense to get. So, but the thing about defenses and the reason they do go so late is just people don't care. They know that a defense
Right.
is going to score anywhere from 6, and maybe they'll get a return touchdown and get 15. So the variance is not enough to really say, "Oh my God, I must get that defense." So
Right. Unless you're a sicko.
go for the Seahawks.
Go for the Seahawks. Go for the Seahawks. So let's get to the stupid Niners out of our heads. Believe me, I'm going to bring this back up on screen so we could take it out. You mentioned we sang the song a couple of times, the Oots Oots Oots. So to take us out, why don't we watch together the Robbie Oots hype video? Get this thing hyped up, and then we'll say goodbye to the flock. How's that sound to you?
I'd love it.
All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah, I hate soccer, yeah.
Oots Oots Oots. Might be a bit delayed this time, but that's okay.
Oh my.
With the 175th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Robbie. I don't hate you, Bobby.
Oh, that might have been a bit delayed on the replay there. It was a little slow for me, but if we're talking, if we got to land this in the right way and all the fun, yes, we want to talk fantasy. Yes, we want to win our championships, but the real championship we're after this year, Bloomy, besides our fantasy, is of course for our Seattle Seahawks to get back to the upper echelon of teams. And this is going to be an interesting team this year, man. I think we're pretty dangerous, and I think philosophically we are going to beat some people up, and I am very ready for that, Bloomy.
Yeah, me too. And in spite of the fact that your ultimate goal is the Super Bowl, a repeat would be kind of nice.
I got you. All right. I think with that,
There's only one thing left to say.
go Hawks.
Go Hawks.